Yeah, okay.
Now,
So last time we talked about the breathing, me focusing more on the body. I searched a little bit about all of that, and I downloaded a book about the Apanas. Oh, I cannot remind how the sutra is called. I'm sorry.
Anapanasati.
Anapanasati. So from Thich Nhat Hanh, I found this book, and so I read the whole book. That was very interesting, and it deepened what you told me. So that was good, and I tried to practice the body scan in the morning. Basically, gave good result. It's an interesting process. That was the first time I was doing it. It's more pleasant than I was expecting, honestly. I still have difficulties to feel my body as focus on the, for example, the leg, okay, well, or the knee, focus on the knee. Well, I don't feel my knee, so I just imagine my knee at some point, and I try to focus there, but basically I don't feel it. But still, it was interesting. I tried to go in the internal also, like the spine, the liver, the heart, stomach, etc. That's cool because I will have. We also have to check an anatomy book to make that better. So anything that bring a little bit of knowledge is fine. But then I went through some rough days of depression, or when it's striking you a little bit, and it settled inside of me, and it was like few difficult days where I was not sleeping so much anymore, etc. So well, that's the news basically.
All right. The first thing to say is that learning the body, becoming in touch with the body, is such an important foundation of the teachings of the Buddha. Yet many different teachers will have different ways of teaching students about how to wake up the body, and that they would generally fall into basically two categories, and that would be the category of intentionally go section by section in some order or something, or paying attention to each individual thing. And then the other method would be a more natural method of starting with the body, the breathing, working with the hands, beginning to wake up to the movements of the body and that kind of thing. But basically, they have the same intention, which is this allowing the student to basically experience the whole body. And some of them have more methodology in learning to do that, but it's one of the most important foundations. Um, and so, good. I'm glad that you're practicing that. And as you say, it can be quite joyful.
Yeah.
It can be even more joyful if you are intentionally being joyful about it. Is to really look at it as if it were an adventure that you were on, or a new toy to play with.
That was my mindset, yeah, when I did that.
Great.
Okay, let's go deep.
Uh-huh.
That was
And so then you said that, and then after doing that for a while, that you sort of dropped out of it, or you became bored with it, or that you ran through a rough spot, or what exactly was it that you were saying?
No, it's not provoked by the body scan itself. That's stay fine. It's less of a new toy, but it's
Oh,
also it's still
I wasn't linking them to. I was just saying, but then, in the sense
yeah
that the
yeah
second thing you said.
yeah. Well, it's just a few days ago. Yeah, it was just depression. Yeah, the feeling without purpose, feeling useless, feeling what's the point, feeling with meditation that I'm surely doing it wrong, that it's help, but not so much, etc., etc. It's like the ego is striking back.
Yes,
It's how I take it.
you can take it like that. That's a decent enough way to describe it.
Mm.
Um, it's almost like, in a way, the hindrances can get spring loaded.
Yeah, yes, it feels a little bit like that. Yeah,
So if you're pushing on them and pushing them down, and then all of a sudden you let the trigger goes off or something, and they're out like Jack in the Box.
yeah. Mm. I like
Um,
I like your way to say I see you, Mara.
uh-huh.
So I use that quite a lot, actually, during the meditation and outside of the meditation.
That's
Um,
exactly the right way to do it, because you can see that just in that one phrase, we're coming out of it. It's like, from this position, this view is seeing that, which is completely different. That this is it, or I am
oh yeah,
that. Okay. So now we've got this separation. We pulled ourselves out. And that's a really excellent way, rather than you being stuck in it. Now we have escaped from it. That's kind of a freedom. So
mm,
just that one little thing there has such an amount of power to it. I see you, Mara, separates us from it. And we are no longer that.
well, it did bring some distance with it, but it didn't make it dissolve. That's sure. That
It
I
didn't
will,
make what?
it didn't make it dissolve, disappear. The process was still here. I was observing it with more distance, but that was still here, quite strong. So yes, it helped with this distanciation from it. I was trying to also analyze the triggers, the conditioning in it, all the process, well, all the thinking patterns and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it was still quite powerful and kept me not sleeping or sleeping badly during few days. Yeah, but now it feels better.
Okay. Um, the mind will do that kind of thing, going in and out. One of the things that will happen on a regular basis is students will say, "Well, I thought I was finished with that I had done that, and now it comes roaring back in." Okay, but it's just um, more of the process. And so, even in that way, that whole thing that you're talking about, you can say, I can see that too. So
Mm.
I can see when the mind goes through these various states, and when sometimes the hindrances are stronger than at other times. Another way is to begin to understand what is the favorite home territory for the hindrances. In other words, where does the mind wander in general when it wanders away? The Buddha's got an analogy of that about training elephants, and the elephants will get escaped. And where do they go? they go home.
Mm.
And so the elephant trainers will just go back where they caught that elephant, and they know he's right around that area, and they'll catch him again. And so this is the way that we begin to understand the mind. That the mind generally, when it wanders away, many times it goes to an old home or an old resting place or an old favorite area.
Mm.
And what we're going to be able to do is to shift that so that the mind comes to at home much closer to this present moment
Mm.
by retraining the mind. And that working with the body is the very first step. First breathing and then the body is the first part of Anapanasati, practiced all over the place. But what I like to do is to put it in into more of a mix or into a reality, so that as we begin to work with the body, we're also working with the feelings, beginning to feel like that we're already getting the right stuff out of working with the body, as opposed to working with the body thinking that later on we're going to get the result.
Mm.
So we have to be able to see the result. There's watching the body and really enjoying waking it up, really experimenting and playing with it. And we begin to do that by changing our attitude. And the attitude that we all come to this world with is something like the attitude of, if I do A to get B, then C will happen.
Mm.
Which is kind of magical thinking. It's almost like the law of karma.
Yeah.
That a good action will always give a good result. And if I want that result, I can't just get that result. I've got to go do this action over here first.
Mm.
Okay? So the whole practice then of Anapanasati is what is called the direct method. So rather than doing A to get B so that C will happen, we go from A directly to C.
Where C is some kind of happiness.
Well, C is then satisfaction and happiness.
Yep. Mm.
And so we go directly to be feeling like a winner. We do not have to go run the marathon. We don't have to actually go to the Olympics to feel the way that an Olympic champion feels. You can feel that way all on your own.
Yeah. The thing is that I don't want to feel like a winner. I just, how to say that? I want to not care about being a winner or being a loser, because that's just society concept for me.
I can understand that, but that's generally where people are only intellectually.
Mm.
And the way to get that to the level of that of reality is by learning that you are in charge of the very feelings that most people are looking for that win.
Mm.
And that you know how to control those kind of feelings that people are trying to avoid by avoiding losing.
Mm.
So, in fact, once you are able to work with your feelings directly, will then you be able to take on that idealized position that you gave me.
Mm.
Okay? That can you, in fact, feel the way that a winner would feel?
I don't know.
Certainly
because
you can. And yes, you can, because you've done it before in your life. You felt like a winner in your life. You know what it feels like.
At the same time, I never was in the head of somebody else, so that was my version of it.
I'm sorry, what?
At the same time, when I was feeling like a winner, it was my version of it, and I don't know what other people feel when they're feeling like a winner. So I felt Mm. So yeah, I can say I felt good winning and something, but usually speaking, it's not something that that I really pursue, because it's a little bit too fleeting and it's going away quite fast.
Because what?
It's a little bit going away fast, and I would say a high is always followed by a low. So what I kind of seek is more like a calmness, a stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. That's how I would describe it.
All right. Well, let's take it from a different frame of reference then.
Mm-hmm.
If you could feel how you wanted to feel, how would you feel?
Peaceful.
Pardon?
Peaceful.
Peaceful. All right. So, can you bring that on directly?
Sometimes, yeah, I can do that, yeah.
Okay. When is it that you cannot?
That's because my mind is in some negative loop thinking.
All right. So now we've got something to work with, don't we?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I was trying to do this last day, as I told you, when I was feeling bad. I was observing these loops in my head, and it's interesting because it's kind of the same content over and over again. It's like really this circle of, and yeah, I was trying to take some distance. I was trying to tell my ego that it's not very productive what it's doing right now, that it lead to nowhere, and that's what's the point of being into these kind of cycles, and that it's even I was even thinking that, talking to Mara, basically, you're hurting yourself right now, because by being so negative, you're bringing nothing good to yourself. I will do what? I'm staying like that, and well, if you're trying, to defend your survival as an ego because you don't want to die, as the ego's dying when you're awaking or in this process. If you want to defend yourself, you're not, because you're just hurting me, which is your career, basically, etc., etc. And I was trying to reason to think with him, with it, or whatever. And yeah, well, I guess it helped a little. It was interesting days, honestly, to go back to these problems. It's coming again and again anyway, so I will have to deal with it again. But no, it was strong and it was interesting, I would say.
Okay. So, would you say then that the feelings of peace and contentment, if I can add that word,
Yeah.
and we can begin to explore that, that was associated with the body scanning?
Yeah. The body scanning was feeling good, but sometimes meditation feels good. Sometimes being outside, even with the dog barking and some noise, feel good, because I know it's just it's just the way you see it, basically. If you feel at peace, if you want to feel at peace with that, you can be at peace with that, because thinking that the dog barking too loud is annoying, it's just a label that you're putting on it. In fact, it can be fun to listen to, and it can be interesting as a noise. You can label it differently, and you can find peaceness like that. You can find peacefulness, sorry. You
So,
can
one of the words then that I would add to that also would be satisfaction.
yes, indeed.
That it's hard to be at rest or in a state of peace if there's a lot of undone work.
Mm.
So we come to the point of being satisfied with the way things are.
Mm.
Okay. So this gives rise into the idea of that the job has been done. The job that needed to be done has been done. We've been successful at it, and now we can lay down and take a rest. If there's still work to be done, then the rest is not going to be really all of that restful. But if the work that needed to be done has been done, then we can lay down and rest completely. Would you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. What I feel is that a part of the work was done, and I can feel this stress more often than when I, like 2 years ago or before that. I can feel this peacefulness and still this satisfaction more often, but there is still work to do, a lot of work to do, of course.
Okay. Well, how can you get out of that feeling that there's a lot of work to do?
I would say that I could stop to think that there is a lot of work to do and just feel the satisfaction all the time. Basically, I think it could be as simple as that.
Okay. So then you're kind of understanding that there may, in fact, be a different, deeper layer of peace. The peace that you have knowing that you've got a whole lot of work to do, and then there's the peace knowing that the job that needed to be done has been done.
Yeah.
And that would be a deeper peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what I know is that what I feel is that basically it's all a mind trick, and by dropping a problem, by really dropping it, you don't have this problem anymore, right? And then you feel peace and satisfaction.
It depends upon what it is that we're defining as a problem, because
Yeah.
we might pick it right back up.
Yeah.
But if we can set it down for the moment, then at least we're free from it in the moment. Even if we pick it up later, then we're no longer free. And if we set it down and became free one time, then the next time we pick it up, we might find a way of putting it down and becoming free of it again. And after we practice that over and over and over again, then we get the idea, oh, even if I pick it up again, never mind, I can set it back down.
Yeah. Yeah, this kind of ideas. I was thinking about this Buddha story that I surely got wrong or remain wrong, but whatever. You know, where you see a guy that that lost his animals, or I don't know what, and the guy is running around searching for his animals, and he's telling him that he saw the animal somewhere, and the other guy is going there, and then the Buddha is saying to the other disciple that if you don't have these animals at first, you will not have this problem of losing them. So what I have the feeling is that most of the problem we are having are problems that we could avoid basically by not building them first.
Yes. Actually, what you're pointing at now is, let us call them problems that would be associated with the real world, or the world of the rupa, the world of the physical reality. In that regard, the Buddha looks at it from the perspective of the four requisites. The four requisites means, what is each individual person's bottom line for these four items? In other words, what is your bottom line for housing? What is your bottom line for clothing? What is your bottom line for food? And what is your bottom line for medical attention? Or another way of saying it rather than bottom line would be adequate, just adequate housing. So that if you're anywhere above that, then that does not make your life better.
Exactly.
That there's a bottom line, and that in fact, what happens over time for many who go deeply into it is that the number of physical possessions that they have goes down, 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 down. People are not much interested in owning property, or in fact, there's the idea of the Dhammarato, which is that we only own as much stuff as we can pick up and carry away. And we go traveling a lot, so we have to pick up everything we own and carry it away, because we know that if we come back to where we just left 6 months or a year later, whatever we left is not going to be there.
Mm.
And so learning to live with a small amount of goods fits precisely into the way of the Buddha's teaching, is to not have many physical items, don't own much, and be willing to sort of let whatever it is that you do own kind of fall behind, in the sense that it's heavy stuff to carry around. And so that gives then the idea of the Sangha of real freedom is to pick up your robe and bowl and take a hike and go to some place new. And so that was basically the lifestyle that has been going along for the past 2,500 years. And that even happens a lot in the West, where there's been Asian Watts built up. They move around. That the monks don't stay in one particular temple. There'll be one guy there that's generally the abbot that takes care of the place, and everybody else is just all over the place. It's almost like the joke was, I came for a funeral, I stayed for 2 more, and then I got used to the place. And so that's how the lifestyle of the monk reflects this idea of living at a kind of a minimal level, because we're not going to really get much joy or benefit out of material possessions other than what we consider our own bottom line.
I would even say that we're getting worries and we're getting troubles out of them.
Pardon?
I would even say we're getting worries and trouble out of the physical possession we may have.
Precisely. Things break.
Things
Plants
get lost.
die.
Yeah, exactly.
Books get wet. All kinds of things happen. And so that's what we mean, in fact, by anicca. Anicca vata sankhara upatavaya dhammano. Everything falls apart, and that's true at the physical level also. So learning to be content with little is the way to become content. And there's many, many stories about that. One of them is the story, I think it's called The Prince and the Pauper, where a little boy was wandering around the streets of some big city way back when, and somehow he was recognized to be the son of the king, the long-lost son, because he was the right age. Maybe he had a ring on or whatever. And so they installed this kid in the palace, having armed guards around him because he was so precious, and he hated it. And so he escaped and goes back out on the street. At least it was an easier life for him out on the street than it was living the life of a prince in the palace. And I think that's a pretty funny story in that regard, that people think that their freedom is going to come from material possessions, where in fact real freedom comes from the easeability of doing without, which means now we can be generous. We can give that stuff away. We don't have to own it. It's not important. So we can be generous. And so I generally, with students who live in big cities that have a lot of homeless around, to practice generosity, which means to go and just give a little bit of money, whatever you feel good about. With Willie, we started with a quarter, and now he does dollars. And sometimes he'll go and spend a lot of money, like for a donut and a coffee, which would then be $5 in New York. And so this is how, and he loves it. He says it's the best thing.
I think it's important to talk with them also.
Pardon?
I think it's important to talk with them also, and you have a lot to learn from them.
Oh, okay. Yes. Willie's talked about that also. So, and it's all actually it's the practice of compassion and the practice of generosity. So we work at that level because we're also working at the level of being satisfied on ourselves with very little. And if we're satisfied with very little, we wind up feeling wealthy. Even people who have a lot of money don't feel wealthy. They just, enjoy being rich, but they're not really satisfied.
No.
And
Well,
so,
at my level, when I started to have a little bit of money, it didn't bring any happiness, honestly. Nothing. Just worries. And I felt it quite accurately.
Okay. So these are kind of practices that go quite along with the teachings of the Buddha. If we're going to learn to be satisfied in our heart, then we can actually take actions on the outside that help promote that. Like practicing generosity and being able to come back to this present moment, to take a deep breath, and to be satisfied with what's happening right now, which you're calling peaceful. Just be peaceful. In fact, I don't think that in the Pali Canon, very many authors use actually the word peace. That they have words that have to do with passivity. But another way that we could talk about it would be the word upekkha. Upekkha is a word that is translated as equanimity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that equanimity then can also be looked at as okayness. The things are really they're okay. The Thai word for it is sabai. Sabai. Everything is just okay. Another way that we could talk about it would be copacetic. But this sabai state, this state of well-being, is generally perpetrated on that it's not it's a well-being that can relax into things without having to be any longer on guard. That this is beyond being on guard. That in the beginning of the practice, we really do need to practice being on guard so that we're only going to allow wholesome things into the mind and push out the kinds of things that are not wholesome. But later, when we're getting very skilled at that, when we go into that great state of peace, it's because we know that those kind of hindrances are not going to be coming up. There's no more work to be done. There's no more orders to be given. That everything has come to the state of, And this is what they mean by nibbana, in the sense of being unconditioned. You probably
Okay.
heard that, okay? Now, what does they mean? They generally make the mistake of confusing the difference between unconditioned and unconditionable. And what we mean by unconditioned is basically the way that we cook food by putting it onto a fire. So the fire actually cooks the food. It's the conditioner. And when the food is then taken off the fire, now it's becoming unconditioned, and in that sense will cool off. But if we put it back in the fire, it will heat up again. And if we pull it back out, it will cool off again. And if we leave it out of the fire, then it goes into a coolness. And this is what is nibbana, is the state that is when we take the heat off the mind. And so this is the way to begin to practice. There's that deep equanimity that's built into it. And so in this way, we have many different ways of walking around this and talking about it from the perspective of peace. Another one would be the window from equanimity. Another one would be satisfaction. But basically, we're looking at the whole thing from a place that has real satisfaction based upon the job is well done and that there's nothing really left that needs to be done, at least in this moment. We're not looking at it from the sense of the long distance. But for right now, this is good enough. This is it. The job is done.
Yeah.
That that's not going to be a permanent place, but it is a place of satisfaction.
Is there anything permanent anyway?
Pardon?
Is there anything permanent anyway?
Nothing is permanent. Nope, not a bit. Even that nibbana can become conditioned again by heating up the mind and popping it in. So one of the things that I wanted to do is to make sure that we're on the same wavelength, that we've got the same language going here, and that another way of talking about it to help round this out is the idea of hunger and the happiness of the fulfillment of hunger. And so imagine that you were in a desert going from sand dune to sand dune, and no water, about to die, and you go over one more sand dune, and there is a real oasis, not a mirage, but a real oasis with palm trees and tents and camels and the whole 9 yards of it. As you're running down towards that oasis, there is the excitement and the anticipation that goes with, I'm going to survive. This is wonderful. I'm going to get the water. And then the next thing that happens is that the guy in the example, he's got his face in the water, he's drinking the water, and he's got his belly full of water, and he rolls over really satisfied. He's got it now. Okay. This is the difference then that we're looking at. One has anticipation, it has excitement, it has the jubilation that one would normally think of it as the excitement of winning. But generally that happens before the guy finishes, goes across the line. That actually after he does the win, that's when he can really relax. And so this is the perspective that we're looking for, is that there is a win here. There is the satisfaction of having job well done. and that it is a satisfaction. Here would be an example of that would be a student who came to meditation that was doing all kinds of street violence and everything like that. And this happens sometimes. They go to dojos and they learn it through martial arts. But this kid begins to clean up his act, literally. Okay. And he doesn't do the kinds of things that he used to do. And he's really pleased with himself that he has made that change in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a real satisfaction that he has gotten because he's made some real change. Well, guess what? Everyone who practices meditation has that same exhilaration, that it's almost like the very best thing that you can do. This stuff is so much better than winning the Olympics and that kind of feeling of win. It's like learning to live the life of the Buddha is to live a life of nobility, of one who is a very high class person, and that we join a society of friends, of nobles, who take care of each other. And so that feeling of the change of lineage and the feeling of well-being of having good friends in the Dhamma, and that we're living the life of the Dhamma. This is a feeling of satisfaction that is really, really high class. Doesn't have to be a strong feeling, but it's the feeling of having arrived at something worthwhile, having done something that's worth doing. Of achieving something that's worth achieving in the sense of literally, why are you practicing meditation? What's the point?
Me, myself?
Yeah, for you, what's the point?
For me, it's, I would, well, following what you said, I would say that it's to be able to appreciate the life as it is, the simple life, the everyday moments, each single action, each single stuff, the sky, a single plant, simple stuff, and not to go into high expectation, thinking, yes, as we said at the beginning, oh, I need this car, I need this phone, I need this company, I need this money, I need that to be happy, because it's not working. So yeah, lower my expectation to the level of exactly what everything is, and seeing it as marvelous as it is, and not being blind by the society and by my conditioning, basically.
And so you're basically saying to live a life of be here now.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, is that a marvelous goal or what?
I think it is. I think
All
it
right.
is.
So now that's the part that I'm trying to get at,
Mm.
is that this stuff that we're doing is very high quality stuff. It's marvelous.
It's
This is
marvelous,
in
yeah.
fact the right way to live.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. So you can gain satisfaction that you begin to see that this is the right way to live.
Yeah, and I can also get frustration from that because I'm not able to do it right now. You know, and I can laugh at that also because it's just mind trick and it's funny.
Well, this is the process that we go through to take out the hindrances and come back to this present moment and
Exactly.
enjoy the fact that we can do that.
Mm.
That no matter, and then you go to the point of no matter how obstructed the mind is, we can clean that out and come back to this present moment.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's actually a major skill or a major point in time when the student, because in the beginning, students are overwhelmed by hindrances on a regular basis. And so coming to the point of understanding that now it doesn't matter what kind of hindrance, how often it is, how big it seems, or how stuck I get on it, I can, in fact, come out of that hindrance and come to this present moment. I've got that power of mind. This is the first step that the Buddha says is noble. It's super mundane. It's a factor of the path, and it's not held by ordinary people. Ordinary people. It's not held by ordinary people. Ordinary people will feel victimized. They can become victimized by the hindrances.
I still am, of course.
All right, but there comes a time when you know for sure. Maybe it's after an illness.
Well, for me, yeah.
But there comes a time when we know that no matter how junk-filled the mind can get, I can tip it over, pour it out, and be finished with that stuff and come back to the present moment. That's a marvelous feeling to have.
Yeah. Well, these last days when it was difficult, that was I was telling myself that I can do that. Still not able to do it because the negative feelings were too strong. But usually when things are not so intense and it's just something rising slowly, you know, some insatisfaction rising slowly, yeah, I can manage it and put it down. So I guess it's also a matter of training, of course, and I'm just at the beginning, and that's fine like that. I have, see a lot of things to, a lot of things to do still, a lot of work to do. I would not have expect to arrive at the end of the path in like 1 or 2 years. That would be too easy, right? That would not be realistic.
I'm hoping that I can plug in some of the details to make your path easier for you. Because it is going to be a process. It's going to take a while, but there are some milestones along the way. And this one that we're talking about here is a major milestone. And that is no matter how obstructed the mind is, in the sense of no matter what it gets caught on, or how enduring or long-lasting, or what a big issue it is, that we can clean out the mind and come back to this present moment. And an outrageous kind of an example of that would be getting arrested by the police. How are you going to handle getting arrested by the police? That's it. And so that's what we're thinking about. How am I going to handle that? What are the various ways I could handle it?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking you to think about it later. That's sort of a contemplation kind of thing.
Well, I did this kind of thinking, but not with the police.
Well, here's the point: is that in real life, those policemen are generally great big hindrances to someone's normal equanimity. The question: can you regain your equanimity and deal with the police even after you've gotten arrested? And so that's a way of beginning to look at it. And other things like that would be like, I don't know someone, but their funeral. How am I going to handle that funeral? Or how to handle that person, or that coronavirus, or whatever like that. So we can begin to think through this to realize that, hey, it doesn't really matter what happens or what obstructions come along. I can be okay. I don't have to get stuck into feeling bad because I'm getting arrested to argue and resist with the cops.
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing this kind of projection with some potential event in the future, and I really feel it's a choice of how you will react to that, and how your reaction will basically influence how it will unfold and how you can really make it
I
easier.
I agree completely. If we have sati, if we have woke up,
Mm,
then we have a choice. You're right
mm.
about that. The question is, how hard is it to wake up when some of those obstructions are really heavy duty and
Oh
we're
yeah.
stuck in it? Yeah, how do we get out of that?
Mm.
That's the question. How to wake up when the going gets tough? Can we wake up?
Well, I guess you can go back to the breath.
Right. Well, that's after we wake up.
Yeah.
Yes. How do we wake up then? The answer is practice, 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 practice. Keep waking up. The more often we do it, then the more likely we are to wake up when we need it most.
That's true. I feel it already with anger. When anger is rising, I have this jump, this mental jump backward, like, oh, you're getting pissed. And but that's for little stuff. Indeed, if I have something, for example, I have trouble with unfair situations. So indeed, if a cop will come at me and be unfair with me, I think I will play right in the game. I will not be able to step backward.
I can imagine.
Mm,
So, here's the question in that regard, because this may in fact be something really worthwhile for you to begin to look at, and that is, how soon after the anger arises can you wake up to that it's arising, or that it's full blown, or can you wake up to it in the sense of, anger, 3 seconds ahead, 2, 1, here it is. Okay. Um, this is the way of sati to wake up to the anger, and that the point that's important for you to begin to watch for is that you catch it before you speak, before you open your mouth.
mm,
That you keep the anger on the inside and deal with it only on the inside, and then when you get yourself calmed down, then you can speak.
mm.
But don't spread your anger to the outside, because if you do, they'll give it back.
Indeed.
And so don't speak in anger if you can. And if you have already spoken in anger, and then is when you wake up, what you do immediately after wake up is again shut the mouth and don't talk. Take a few deep breaths and recognize that you can change the way that you feel. You do not have to feel angry. That anger is an old feeling that you choose not to have.
Mm. Well, it's
And when
coming,
you
but you don't have to identify with it.
pardon?
It's the anger is eventually coming, but you don't have to identify with this feeling. Yeah.
No, well, the anger is not you. You are not angry. Anger has actually come to take over you. So
Mm,
now anger is the owner.
mm,
That's the boss. Or another way, and they say in Buddhist ways, is you have been reborn into the anger, and anger is considered the hell
yeah.
state.
Okay.
So you're reborn into hell when you get angry. So the question is, how quick can you wake up so that you can be reborn in another world of your choosing? Because I don't think anybody would choose to be angry. That's almost to a man. No one actually enjoys being angry.
Oh, are you sure of that?
Well, there's people who are in the habit of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trained
Well,
in.
so for example, if we stop with the anger and go back to the sadness that I was experiencing a few days ago, basically it's another feeling, it's another negative feeling, and I was thinking all that. I don't have to be this sadness. I don't have to be to feel this low or etc. So I was still stepping out of it, observing it, but it was still here and for a long time. So anger is not maybe the right subject for me, because anger is I don't think I would manage it so well with the cop situation. But for
You're
me, the
saying
main
sadness. But
sadness is
sadness and anger are kind of mixed together with fear. That at the
yes, no,
bottom of it all
fear,
is
yeah, totally,
fear.
yeah,
So
yeah, very
anger is
right.
about to lose something. Sadness is you've already lost it. But fear is the attachment that we had to whatever.
Yeah, okay, that's very right. Fear is the
Okay.
root of everything.
And so as we begin to recognize that, and then again, congratulations for beginning to get down to this is the issue. This is the very issue. Do you want to continue to be afraid, to be angry, to be sad, and all of
No.
those kind of feelings? Or can you wake up and feel the way you want to feel? Because all of those angry, sad, unhappy, fearful feelings we were born with as part of our genetic code and then manipulated by our society. So that whatever joy that we had as a child is generally washed out of us by the time we get into school. And so we need to kind of recover that joyful, playful, everything is good kind of position that does have that quality of peace and satisfaction and okayness. But it also has a quality of playfulness into it that we didn't talk about before. So now that we're adding that ingredient, we can recognize it. A way of saying it, we've been robbed. We've been robbed of the joy of life. And how can we regain that?
Yeah. I was thinking that it makes no sense. Even, fear is based on survival, right? It's what you were saying, conditioned by our DNA, etc. So it's based on the survival. But it doesn't even make so much sense with the survival. That's why I was trying to talk with my Mara these days, because feeling so feared all the time, afraid all the time, is counterproductive, because feeling so low, etc., could eventually lead me to do some bad stuff, right? To do some bad stuff, to whatever that could be. And
or some crazy stuff like have 5 locks on your door instead of 1 or 2.
Exactly. So it's becoming counterproductive. So even in a matter of survival, it doesn't make so much sense. So I was trying to reason.
You're right. But here's the point. At one time, way deep past in our past, 100,000, 600,000 years ago, life was more dangerous then. That we needed fear to keep us alive. In our modern society, it's relatively safe.
Yeah, compared to
That
that.
very, very rarely do you ever have any need for being afraid, but that seems to be the primary feeling that most people have, is fear.
Mm.
And that we can see that the mentality of the workforce, and that you've got to work to eat, and you got to survive. That's the kind of a lie that we've been told.
Mm.
The lie is that you've got to keep working in order to survive. But in Asia, they don't even have that mentality. In Asia, they have the extended family mentality.
Mm.
So that if somebody loses his job, it don't mean nothing.
Mm.
Come home and take care of the farm or whatever. And that's just how they see it. And in that regard, an actual job is not nearly as important to the Thai people as it is to one in the West. I don't know how it is in your country. But in generally, I think in Europe, having that job and being employed is absolutely essential.
Yeah, it
And
is.
and because of that, that itself is then the source of the fear.
Indeed.
And in
Very
fact,
true.
you already know, at least intellectually, that you could make it fine without that job.
Oh, that's another question because I don't
But
have
you
an
might have to
extended.
put on your hiking boots, but you know that you could do it.
I
You
could
could
do it.
survive.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have this little house in the countryside that is almost a ruin, but imagining myself living there without a job and as simple as possible is bringing some quietness. Because yes, I know I could do it. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
difficult surely at the beginning, but I could do it. Yeah.
Well, good. Now we're back to that same old point that
Hmm.
we were making in the first place. That's great. Exactly. Well, what you're pointing at, though, is that many people, they don't get value out of their job. They don't have any satisfaction that they do A to get B so that then they can get C, rather than going from A to C directly, in the sense of, if I've got a job to do, why don't I enjoy it? Why do I do something I don't want to do? And then my only reward is the paycheck. Why can't I have both the paycheck and the joy of doing what I'm doing?
Mm. Well, that's an interesting question because I don't have satisfaction with my work, indeed, and it's a huge problem for me for quite a long time.
All
As I
right, well, let's start looking at that as part of your practice of anapanasati then, without even having to go into any details. What you can do is, any moment in the day that you find yourself unsatisfied with your job, let that be a wake-up moment. I see that. I see you. Take a deep breath and say, all right, well, at least for the next 1 minute, I'm going to like this job.
And what I am thinking also is that this dislike of this job is also a choice of me somewhere deep inside, and that's this an
Exactly.
unsatisfaction, and I could also get rid of that and see each
Well, you
moment.
can play with it. I wouldn't say get rid of it. I'd say, like we're talking about now, is,
Mm, yeah,
start to play
mm,
with it.
yeah, yeah. I could use it as a trigger, indeed. That's a very good idea.
Good, good.
I will do that.
Because that job is now for you a hindrance.
Yeah.
And you're going to develop the attitude, no matter how big the hindrance is, even if it's that dang job, it's not going to completely take over and cloud my mind. I can throw that job out of my mind, come back to this present moment, and enjoy it.
And the fact is, if I focus on the present moment, the job is not horrible at all. It's quite okay.
Nope, it is. In fact,
Mm,
that's the point that I was making a long time
mm,
ago. Right.
mm,
That the job we hate is the job that's tomorrow or yesterday. But
mm,
right now, it's not an issue.
mm. Hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Okay, well, let's finish this call now. I think we've
Yeah,
gotten something quite useful out of this.
indeed. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you very much.
All righty. Well, go have fun with that job.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.